Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. As always, of course, it is me, Yasser Ismail, and this is the Carbon Connection. So today is going to be the first of a kind on my channel in terms of an actual partnered up video. We are here at BMW Midrand, and they have afforded us the opportunity to test drive the new 7 Series, specifically a 740i. Super excited, super stoked, and obviously we hope that we be able to feature many more of the BMW Midrand cars. And of course the main purpose of these videos is to showcase what BMW has on offer in terms of their new products, to give you guys some sort of an experience of the updates in technology, the driving impressions, the experience that you get from the latest from BMW stable. So of course a huge shout out to BMW Midrand for partnering up with us here at the Carbon Connection and allowing us of course to test drive the all new 7 Series. So I'm standing right next to the car, so let's take a quick look. As is with most BMWs, the styling is quite controversial. A huge grille, thin split headlights, quite a boxy overall look, and I guess it's just a lot for us to get used to. Moving on to the rear, again with the thin tail lights, quite a boxy looking rear as well. Although I feel that it is BMW showing us a very futuristic design, and after spending some time with the car in person, it's sort of growing on me, but I'm not completely sold just yet. Moving into the badge, I noticed something different that I haven't seen in BMWs before. The 7 with a much larger font than the rest of the badge. In my opinion, it looks pretty cool. With regards to the BMW badging, I'm quite glad that it doesn't have the heritage badging, because I prefer the normal BMW badge. There's a silver finish that goes through the rear taillights, which I think is kind of nice. Another detail in the taillights is these triangular shaped details within the taillight, and that matches the rear glass, as you can see here, and that is obviously surrounded by some matte silver trim, which looks pretty good. Overall, it's definitely not my favorite BMW design, but it is something that is, like I said, growing on me. And it definitely has a lot of road presence. It's something out there, it's something new, and it just takes some time to getting used to. I do feel that the front end isn't as bad as people make it out to be. For me, like I mentioned already, the rear end isn't sitting too well. It looks too chunky. But the front end is looking kind of cool to me. Like I said, very futuristic with the headlights split by the bumper. And I think it works pretty well. Moving on to, obviously, one of the main features of a 7 Series is the massive boot. Luggage capacity is sitting at a whopping 540 liters, which is way more than I'd ever use. As you can see, my equipment doesn't even begin to use up the space. Neither does the little Easter bunny. But yeah, this is obviously one of the main features of a 7 Series. It's sheer size. And of course, the boot can be closed by the touch of a button. So it automatically soft closes, which is always a nice feature to have. BMW have chosen to conceal the door handles within the door in this new 7 Series, and I think it looks really, really neat. So the door handle is within the door, as you can see, the way I've opened it. Pretty easy to use. Of course, it's just a door handle, but it definitely does make the car look nice and slick. And of course, it can be locked by just swiping your finger over those 3 lines on the door handle. After getting around the back and forth regarding the styling in the outside, it's time for the main event, the interior of the 7 Series. It really is an astonishing multimedia experience with the 14.9-inch BMW curved display, as well as what BMW calls the interaction bar, which goes right across the cockpit. This changes colors in different modes, in different settings, and I think it's a pretty cool feature. The seats are, of course, extremely comfortable and supportive. As you can see, they look pretty damn good as well. Top-notch quality leather used, of course, this being the flagship car for BMW, they couldn't skimp on any of that. The interactive bar is very bling, as you can see, with the crystal finish, which follows through to the seat adjuster above there, and it's obviously got the Bowers & Wilkins sound system, which is a great extra to have. Overall, it's just a really, really nice place to be. But more importantly, let's look at the rear, because a lot of people buying the 7 Series would spend a lot of time here, being chauffeured around, obviously. With cushioning to support your neck and your back, it's a very, very comfortable place to be, with loads of leg room, a lot of new features. The front seats actually look pretty cool from the rear as well. And of course, this is just the beginning of what you get to experience in the rear seats. We'll get to most of it shortly. BMW have done away with door handles on the interior as well. Here's a button which you press to unlock the door. And of course, there's the lock and unlock latch buttons, your window buttons, all within the door card. And of course, loads of storage space underneath here as well. The usual air conditioning vents at the rear, of course, with new buttons as to how you'd move those vents around, which also looks pretty neat. Then we've got a nice USB-C charging port in the rear of the front seat, easy access for your passengers at the back, which is nifty, and of course concealed quite nicely rather than having an open USB slot there. Like I said, loads of leg room for whoever's sitting at the back. And of course, this is accompanied by adjustable rear seats, which is an optional extra and can be controlled via this unit on the side of the door. I think this is an epic feature to have, controlling whatever you need to via this little interactive pad or display pad, whatever it is you want to call it. It's a really, really nifty tool to have. As you can see, seat adjustment can be done via this tool. That's me trying to adjust the rear. Obviously, you can recline it, as you can see I've done so. And then you can adjust the headrest and any other aspects of what can move up and down, back and forth regarding the seat that you're sitting in. It's a pretty simple system to use. I suppose it just takes a little bit of getting used to, going through the different menus and figuring out what does what, just clicking on the appropriate section of the seat that you want to have adjusted, and then adjusting accordingly with the arrows on the display. You can also access your climate control via the same unit. As you can see, you can adjust your fan speed. We'll also get into adjusting your seat heating. This is obviously done through a different menu within this menu. The interactive pad also allows you to do things like lift the sun visor blinds, as you can see done here. This also allows you to control the sun blinds on both sides of the vehicle, not just the side that you're sitting on, as well as the rear of the vehicle. So of course, just to give you that extra bit of privacy when needed and protect you from the sun. Of course, it is called sun visors. Yeah, let's move along from here. Then, of course, the real theatrics of sitting in the rear. You get to sit back and enjoy the 31.3-inch BMW theater screen with Amazon Fire TV built in. This really does create a unique panoramic rear seat entertainment experience. Unfortunately, I didn't have internet connectivity at that point in time, so I can really test what it would look like watching a movie or your TV series on that screen. But of course, there are a whole lot of different settings and apps that you can access via the screen, and it is touchscreen. And then it is very easily retractable via the interactive pad on the side. As you can see, by the click of a button, the TV, or rather screen, switches off and neatly retracts back into the roof. Very, very nifty thing to have, especially for your long haul journeys or whatever it is. If you want to catch up on TV series and short journeys, whatever it is, it's a really, really cool feature to have. The interactive pad allows you to control your lighting in the rear as well, such as reading lights, etc. And then, of course, like I mentioned, your climate control is accessible through this menu. This is adjusting your fan speed once again. And then obviously moving over to the seat heating, which is pretty nifty on these winter days when I shot this video. Currently off, and then obviously you can change those different levels, and by the click of a button you can obviously switch that off as well, and then go back to the main menu to fidget with whatever it is that you need to. Back to the front of the car. The interactive bar is actually a crystal sort of looking bar. It's just that my camera was picking it up with weird rainbow colors, but that is not the case. Obviously, BMW has done away with the conventional gear lever. They've moved over to this little switch, which is now the gear lever. In the 7 Series, I think it looks very, very neat and really nice. Although in the smaller, more driver-focused cars, I'm pretty sure we'd miss actually having that gear lever there. Of course, for a car with this size, it needs all the cameras you can get. This one does have the 360-degree view camera. As you can see, gives us a helicopter view of the car, as well as the rear view camera, which is very, very nifty when you're trying to park into tight spots. Although this does have park assist as well, which I'll show you a little bit later on into the video. Initially, I was a little bit confused as to how I put the car into park. As you can see, I've moved it into neutral. I'm trying to switch it off, and it just wasn't switching off. As you can see, it's flashing in neutral. Took me a little bit to figure out, but after realizing that there's a button that says P, which is actually your handbrake, hit that and the car moves into park. BMW has moved the volume adjuster down here. As you can see, also crystal finish, and then a touchpad, which is actually not a touchpad. You have to press it down. It's physical buttons that you press down. And this allows you to access different menus within the new latest iDrive system. Initially, quite complicated for me to get used to, coming from a very old iDrive system in the F30. But after a little bit of playing around, it is pretty simple to get used to, and understanding which menus take you where and what adjustments you can do. There are loads of menus with different forms of customization, which obviously can be accessed via the system. I didn't really get into it. I'm more here for the driving experience more than anything. But of course, if we really do want to get into this, we can ask a BMW product genius to perhaps take us through the system in depth. Let us know in the comments below if that's what you want to see, and we'll do a specific video on that.
I can help you to set vehicle functions, and I will guide and support you with information and advice.
Hello BMW. Please activate head-up display.
I have activated the head-up display.
Here I was just showing you how the BMW voice command works. Simple request to turn on the head-up display, which it did perfectly. It's a pretty nifty thing to have while you're on the road. The flowing lines transform the sheer size of the new BMW 7 Series into aesthetically proportioned spaciousness. Of course, once again, a huge shout out to BMW Midrand for affording us this opportunity. Now that we've taken a look at some basic features of the 7 Series and of course admired how handsome or not so handsome it is to some of you, it's of course a tech powerhouse. The display is really, really stunning, and I think it really does suit, of course, the 7 Series. I know there are a lot of people who prefer the analog feel, or rather the old separate digital screens, but I feel like the 7 Series really, really does work well with the big digital screen. So we're going to head out, take it for a quick test drive, and I'll let you guys know how I feel about this car and, of course, how it feels on the road. Surely it'll be like floating on air. So let's see how it goes. So heading out of the BMW Midrand dealership, I can already tell you that this car soaks in bumps like you cannot imagine. Of course, just little speed bumps, and you barely feel them, whereas in my F33 30D, of course, it would shake you up quite a bit. This being the 740i, it is powered by BMW's B58 motor. In this variant, it pushes out 280 kilowatts and 540 newton meters, if I'm not mistaken. This is also the version with a mild hybrid 48 volt system. So yeah, there is that extra bit of shove, although of course with a car of this size you'd barely feel it at all. The indicator noises are very different. Of course, I'm very used to the old school indicator sounds of BMWs. I feel like in this one here you can clearly hear it being played through the speakers, and it actually sounds pretty good. One thing I noticed on startup is that this engine is extremely quiet. Actually, for a while I didn't even realize that the car was on, and I was shuffling around thinking, okay, how do I actually start this thing? Very, very quiet, very, very pleasant. Of course, if you are buying a 740i, you're not looking at buying a full-on performance car. you're looking at buying this car for its luxury. This specific 740i is very well spec'd. When we get back to the dealership, we will actually go through the full-on spec sheet so you guys can get an idea of what each and every one of those extras would cost. I know that the huge display at the back is not standard. It comes part of a package, and of course as well as massage seats and the ability to move around the back seats. A cool new feature of the new 7 Series is active rear steering as well, which I don't think we've had in previous 7 Series at all. So that definitely does help it manage its size. Driving around a little bit, it definitely is quite deceiving initially because you don't realize that you're in this huge car. It handles its weight really well as well. It feels agile, of course very light steering thanks to electric steering. And of course, I'd understand in the smaller models like a 3 Series, etc., you would be able to complain and be like, hey, you know, it's numbing my driving experience. But in this, it is perfect. It makes driving an absolute pleasure. Although, how many of you who would buy 7 Series would actually be driving it? That's also something to take into consideration. So technically, I should have someone driving me around in the 7 Series to give you a different perspective. But perhaps we'll get to that a little bit later. The seats are extremely comfortable. Like I've shown you already, it's got nice cushioning, very adjustable, especially via this fancy looking seat adjuster. There's close to no road noise while you're driving along. And obviously I've given you the specs of the motor and how much power it has. And in such a big car, it still does have a fair bit of shove. Not very dramatic, of course. We'll do a little quick. Yeah, just up to the speed limit, really nice and easy. No theatrics in terms of driving experience, of course. It's more about the luxury and just being able to really relax and enjoy it. The finishes are top notch, of course, this being BMW's flagship car. Like I mentioned, the 7 Series is a very big car. It stands at just over 1.5 meters tall, 1.9 meters wide. The steering was actually vibrating to let me know that I'm going across the lane. Quite cool. Yeah, so very big car, well over 5 meters long, and again, it's very deceiving because of how it feels. So you really do have to get used to it. And like I mentioned, the steering was vibrating because I was going across the lane as I was turning. Again, coming from a 3 Series, I'm not used to the sheer size of the 7 Series. That's a little bit annoying. Every time I say 7 Series, the voice command decides that it wants to butt in and ask me what I need help with. Although, it is a nifty thing to have, so we can show you how that works. I did give you a brief example of how it works earlier. So we'll go, hello BMW. Please open the windows.
Function deactivated. Activate it to automatically open the window at selected locations.
Okay, so that was a slight fail, and that's actually because deep in the menus of iDrive, that specific automatic function has been disabled. So that obviously shows some level of customization in terms of what you want active in terms of your voice control and what you prefer having deactivated. In this example, it will not open all the windows as I requested. Hello BMW, turn off the air conditioner.
Okay, I will deactivate all climate functions.
That worked. So, air conditioning is officially off. Of course, that is something you'd need to get used to. I'm pretty sure there's some level of AI where it gets used to your voice and your commands and adapts accordingly. Something else that I noticed that is really brilliant in this car is the automatic start-stop, which of course has advanced in terms of technology and how it actually works. Again, coming from the F30 330D that I drive on a daily basis, the minute I get in, I turn that off because I can clearly feel it going on and off, and it's quite an annoyance. Although in this car, it's so smooth, gentle, silent that I actually haven't even noticed that it's on. So, voila, BMW. Nicely done. So, some very solid brakes. It stops just as well as it goes. In terms of price, this is of course just above 2.4 million rand. The specific car spec as it is. Remember, this is a 740i. And is it worth every penny? Well, honestly, I think it is. In terms of the luxury tech and spec that you're getting, yes. I don't see why you would not want to spend that sort of money on this car, provided that you have it lying around. I know I most certainly don't. In terms of consumption, BMW claims that this car will do 6.8 liters per 100 kilometers on the open road, which I find fairly reasonable and realistic, considering that the B58s are fairly economical depending on how you drive them. And of course, on the open road, that seems achievable, provided that you would obviously be setting it in cruise control at about 100 kilometers per hour. Although around town, I don't expect it to be the lightest car that you'd be able to drive. I'm assuming we'd achieve around 11 or 12 liters per 100 kilometers realistically, with your start-stop traffic here in Johannesburg. BMW also claims that it would do the 0 to 100 sprint in 5.4 seconds. I do not have my Draggy with me, so I won't be testing that. But we should get pretty close, although we are up here in Johannesburg, so probably get closer to the 5.4 second mark at the coast, like somewhere in Durban. But here I'm assuming we'd probably reach about 5.8. And again, you're not buying the 740i for mind-blowing performance, you're buying it for the luxury. So whether you can get 0 to 100 in 5.4 or 5.8 probably won't really matter to you. The infotainment is something that does take getting used to. I kind of do miss having access to my BMW shortcut buttons with the 1, 2. I know a lot of people don't like it, but I usually find them useful. I also miss having access to my climate control without having to go into the actual iDrive system. So for example, in this new system, there is a climate menu button. You click on the climate menu, and then you can of course change your ventilation and where you want the air actually blowing out, etc. Even though when the climate menu is not accessed, you do have access to your basic temperature settings. So I can obviously increase or decrease the temperature of the air coming out of the air conditioner. Although I still, like I said, do miss having that separate function. But again, it might just be me not being able to adapt to change as quickly as I'd like to in this sense. The 7 Series is definitely a car with huge road presence. As you've seen, the design has changed drastically. Do I like it? I am still on the fence. Although, like with the new M3 and M4, initially I was like, what on earth is that? And now every time I see one, I'm like, hey, that's actually a really, really stunning car. The lights are very, very small and thin. It's a huge grille. It's obviously going to take a lot of us getting used to. But in terms of a futuristic look, they've definitely hit the mark. And I think that's really what the 7 Series has always been about. It's the flagship in terms of BMW showing off their new tech and their new design. And I think that this specific 7 Series really does embody that well. They haven't gone away, or rather taken away from the luxury or anything in that department. They've really upped their game, as they always do. And I think it's just for us to really get used to and accept that this is where car design is going into. Over and above the access to the different menus in the iDrive, I'm not really going to get into that. I think you would have obviously seen that in other reviews already. Alternatively, if you want a full-on review on what's new in the new iDrive system and how it works, let me know, and I'll get one of BMW Midrand's product experts to actually go through the different features of our iDrive infotainment system. What's very different, of course, for me from an experience perspective is the digital dash, and this is a step beyond the initial digital dash that came out in the new G series, 3 series. Of course, this one here has the different dials that are sort of in a different shape, and you have your rev counter going up on the right, and of course your speedometer on the left going up that way. Whereas previously you would have both of your digital dials, with the normal needle look. This does take some time to get used to. Of course, the digital dash does change in different driving modes, which is a cool feature. Definitely something that I still need to get used to. But yeah, it's there to stay, and I think it is pretty cool. So, like all other BMWs of late, this does have different driving modes. So currently we are in personal mode, and then of course that's personalized to how it would be set up through the iDrive system. Then you've got sport, efficient, expressive. You've got a relax mode as well. I have come to a dead end, so I'm going to have to take a U-turn. So actually, this will be a good test to see how easy it is to take a U-turn in this huge car. Oh, done it pretty easily actually. It's a great turning circle, and again I think that's BMW showing off their rear wheel steering, which does assist in that a lot. So I'm going to hit sport, and of course that does change the dash color scheme, and as well as the color scheme around the car itself. So we've got the main theme would be red and blue, of course the M colors. Not that this is an M car, but it's a cool feature. So if I go back into my modes, we've got efficient as well. Efficient changes it again to a light blue, which I suppose does suit the whole efficient theme. I'm going to go back to my modes again. We've got expressive. Expressive seems to have even opened up the panoramic sunroof, which is very nice. That allows loads of light into the car. I think that's brilliant. And then we've got a relax mode. Relax mode seems to have closed the sunroof, rather panoramic sunroof. Has it dulled down the engine a little bit? I'm not too sure. I can't really feel it at this moment in time. Although it has changed the digital dash drastically. I can actually see a picture of the 7 Series that we are in currently as well. We're going to go on to the next mode. Of course, I'm just giving you guys a brief overview of the changes that I can see happening around me while driving without obviously taking my eyes off the road. Then there's a theater mode. Okay, so that was a very theatric experience. So when you hit theater mode, you literally get the theatrics. To give you guys a better look of the different modes, I've stopped, or rather come back to BMW Midrand. So the different driving modes, that is, you're going to hit my modes. This is not touchscreen, you actually have to press it down, and this is what the different modes look like. So like I mentioned, there is sport. That changes the dash that way. I'm going to go back to my modes. Efficient, expressive, some cool graphics, which carries through to the rest of the screen. And like I had mentioned while I was driving, that opens up the panoramic roof. Going back into the driving mode menu, we will hit relax. Very relaxing graphics, as you can see. And there's not too much going on in the dash in front of you, so of course, not to stimulate you, or rather overstimulate you, and that's why it's called relax. Going back to my modes, now we're going to hit the theater button, and as we heard earlier, the very theatric mode. Okay, that's enough of that. Okay, now we are in the digital art, which is the last driving mode. Like I mentioned, very cool graphics, color scheme changes right around the car, purple accents right through, which is a nifty feature. I mean, it is pretty cool and very customizable, I guess. And then you'll go back into a menu, go back to the one which is enabled personal, and that's of course the one that Mr. Luke has personalized. After spending a fair bit of time in the interior, I found an unusual button. And I realized that the glove box, or cubby holder as we call it here, is opened by the press of a button, which is pretty cool, I guess. And then we have this little scroller button, which allows you to move your air conditioning vents, which is really, really neat, tucked away. Same on the other side for your passenger. Definitely does make the cabin look very neat, although I still am missing my shortcut buttons and access to climate control functionality via separate buttons. There's a host of different apps via the iDrive system. I'm pretty sure obviously you can download other apps as well. Again, like I mentioned previously, I think I've mentioned this twice, if you guys really want an in-depth review of the iDrive system, we'll get a BMW product expert in here and we can create a separate video. Just let us know in the comments below, please. The iDrive system, you have your usual vehicle status options, which allow you to monitor tire pressure, etc., service intervals, and then back to our 360-degree view camera, and obviously the helicopter view. And as you can see with your rear view camera, as you turn the steering wheel, it shows you the car's trajectory and where exactly you'd be heading. This view actually follows through to the dash directly in front of the driver, again showing you the exact trajectory of the car. Pretty nifty. Haven't seen that before. Still getting used to the fact that there's no door handles, searching for one every time I wanted to open the door, and then obviously reminding myself that this is done by pressing the button. This car having the B58, I think it's only appropriate that we do a quick sound check. And to my surprise, it actually sounds pretty good. I thought it would be really muffled in the 7 Series, but allowing the B58 to roll the way it should. The engine bay, nothing spectacular, just a lot of plastic engine covers. Of course, not like our older models, not even F30, I'm talking E-Series, or even previous generations where you'd get to see and appreciate a lot more of the engine. As you can see, the car is loaded with those 360-degree cameras in the mirror, and the front grille, and obviously this is displayed even when you're driving. As you can see on the display here, moving forward as well. It's not just the rear view camera that's active. So this gives you the view from what the camera on the front grille is seeing, which obviously does come in handy as well. Another thing I noticed with the rear view camera and the PDC is the way it zooms in when you're actually getting close to obstacles or anything. Calling them obstacles, but yeah, anything in the car's way. As you can see, this is the normal reverse camera, and then the minute I got too close, it gave me the top view instead, which is pretty cool. And then last but not least, I needed to test the auto park function. So the car automatically identified parking spots which it could easily reverse into, and then giving me the option that I could select. Now chosen my parking, changed my mind, chose a different parking. Then I realized that I don't have my seatbelt on at some point. Made sure that I put that on and hit the car into reverse, activated the automatic parking, not touching the steering wheel at all, just controlling the brakes. And yeah, let's see how well this car and its systems, cameras, technology manages its size when it comes to parking. It was quite a weird experience, although my previous F80 M3 did have the parallel parking function, which was epic. I just wanted to see how it works in the 7 Series because of its size. Okay, so how well did the computer do in parking this mammoth of a car? Perfect spacing at the rear, made sure it didn't hit the pavement, well done. Looks like it's within its lines on this side. Definitely within its lines on the other side as well. Well done, BMW. And that sums up our time in the all-new 740i. It really is a spectacular place to be when you're sitting inside it. We know that exterior styling is still controversial, but for us, it's something that we're definitely getting used to. And of course, the luxury and tech within the car really trumps everything. A huge shout out to BMW Midrand for obviously being the sponsors for today's video and for agreeing to partnering up with us and giving us the opportunity to experience the latest within BMW stable. Thanks for tuning in to another video with us here at Carbon Connection. If you've enjoyed it, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.